I'll introduce myself here in a minute, but welcome to the Touch and Collaborate session hosted by the IMCCA. We have 4 panels that we're going to cover today. We're going to cover quite a few questions and answers, but more importantly, I want your guys' participation as well. So interrupt me, raise your hands, we'll grab a mic, and you guys are more than welcome to ask any questions if you have. Just real quick, we're going to go through what the IMCCA is. If you're not familiar with the IMCCA, it's basically a non-profit, technology-neutral consortium of both end users and vendors. We try to focus on the multimedia and collaboration aspects of unified communications. More importantly, we try to build awareness, awareness and branding of UC products and solutions. We try to bring together groups from a unification perspective for the vendors and manufacturers. Try to educate from a learning perspective. We partner closely with InfoComm, and we also do sessions, InfoComm Connect, and smaller sessions in New York and sometimes in California. Obviously, industry alliances, again, with the vendors and folks. More importantly, too, networking opportunities. This is where I find the most value as a customer, as well as networking with you folks and getting to understand your trials and tribulations and the good stuff, the good spots and the tough spots. So there's also a monthly newsletter. That monthly newsletter goes out to all of the members who sign up on the IMCCA website. And then we also try to break it out and do special interest groups, kind of like this, very specific to a certain platform strategy. You can email Carol Zelkin, who's the executive director. Her information is on the screen if you need more information. More importantly, though, stop by booth 2021 in the North Hall. There's a nice little area, a lounge area that you can sit down and meet some folks, network, entertain yourself, and just kind of recharge. IMCCA has been around 10 plus years, and it continues to grow. I think it's a very important organization that needs you guys as end users. Just a little bit about myself. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. My name is Kevin Hyatt. I am the manager of Workplace Services, basically the real-time communications and collaboration platform for the Walt Disney Company. Obviously, you guys most are probably familiar with the Walt Disney Company. I'm also an IMCCA board member, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Disney, but I think you guys get the gist. We're a very wide-ranging company, from consumer products to theme parks and resorts to cruise lines to movies and studios and television and ESPN and Marvel and blah, 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 blah. So, we have a very diverse workforce. One of the things that I focus mostly on is our real-time communications, so video conferencing, telepresence, instant messaging, smart board technologies, interactive whiteboards, webcasting, and web conferencing. So really that real-time collaboration aspect. I've been with the company almost 19 years, and 10 years in basically in this role overseeing a lot of the workplace services. Disney's Disney. It's a great place to work. It's a great place to visit. So it's a very exciting time, especially in this space. So I've been very blessed and lucky. So just kind of jumping into the touch and collaborate aspect, some people may not realize that this has been around a really long time. First started was 1965. It was this touch-driven, finger touch-driven touch screen, and now we've all evolved to other technologies and platforms that these folks support. And there's always a lot of buzz around bigger entities like Microsoft coming in and shipping out the first Microsoft Surface Hub finally. It's been around a long time. And what we're going to talk about today really is more around how do we evolve the service? How do we kind of make it more mainstream? And hopefully these guys are going to have some good insights. Real quick, the industry stats, this is in 2015, but the market for corporate educational sales, it continues to go up, but it's at a slow pace. And again, we're going to try to figure out why and try to figure out how to kind of evolve that service and kind of get it in the right motion. Education, that's probably where everybody's learned from the beginning aspects of it. Most of you probably have kids, in school, and especially in elementary school. They first start out, and that's how they learn about the smart board technologies and interactive whiteboards. And then it evolves into the high schools. My daughter, for example, she's all digital now, so she doesn't take a backpack. It's just a laptop. So they do that. It's a touchscreen laptop, and they do all of their work online. And then obviously into the further education, whether it's college or PhDs and medical services and stuff. So enterprise, it kind of melds a little bit from what the education aspect is, but more focus on workspace collaboration, technology, and more interactive instead of the teaching and the one-to-many push that you typically see from education. And what we're trying to see in the enterprise now is more around that many and many, not really that push to many aspect. I'm going to burn through these because I want to get these guys on here. But next, what we're looking at is the next gen offerings, right? We've got the folks from Oblong, for example, who are here. That's, and I'm sure he'll mention it, it's the minority report type of technology that you're going to see. And again, the multi-touch aspect, not just having one person doing it, but actually having multiple people interact it at one given time. We're seeing that as a next gen offering. And then again, team collaboration. And we'll talk about this with one of my questions, but kind of the unification of some of these services, whether it's unified collaboration and conferencing, how does this technology start to kind of tie into kind of the work streams and workflows? So what's next? So we're going to cover some of these questions, but there's always questions around this, right? Will it become mainstream? Is it mainstream? Some may debate whether it's mainstream, but ultimately, we need to drive these solutions and make our lives easier as a corporate customer and get our things done faster. Will these products continue to converge in the unified communication space, and specifically in video conferencing? And then, what have been some of the entry barriers, whether it's education or commercial or enterprise or medical or any of those services? So we're going to cover those areas. And today we're going to go through, and I'm going to have these gentlemen introduce themselves, but so we've got ABI, SPL, InfoComm, Oblong, and Rico here. So, let's go ahead and Paul, why don't you kick off, and we'll do just a quick intro, yourself, the company, what you do for the company, kind of what your evolution is from the whiteboard process, and we'll work our way down. Okay, sure.
My name is Paul Pasquino. I'm with Rico. Rico Corporation of America is a giant company, but they've been pretty much known in the industry for making their copiers, printers, and data storage devices. They more recently got involved in the area of AV products because they started to realize that print may not be the main form of communication in the future, and we better start thinking about something else to put our information on and be able to share with others. So with that, they hired me. And about 4 years ago, we started really digging into AV technologies. We started with a line of business projectors, realizing that they needed to address the needs of their corporate customers, and they had a very large base of corporate users of their products. So projectors was one, and it made a lot of sense, but beyond just projectors, they focused on networking capabilities. They knew early on that there was going to be a need to tie this information together and share it with more than one person, several people in one room. From there, it expanded into interactive touch panel displays. Started with only one 55-inch. Only took us a year to figure out that nobody wanted a 55-inch display. So we very quickly expanded the line. It goes from 22 up to 84. And with that, the interactivity again was a key important issue, and the networking capabilities, so that not just one person can see what you're doing, but multiple locations. So the ability to collaborate to any place in the world became an important part of their initiative. And then video communications was the last element or category that we began focusing on with a portable video conferencing solution. But now what's important to Rico is that we can take all three of those categories, put them together, and provide one important solution for a customer that will be able to collaborate, connect up with people, see who they're talking to, and share ideas. So that's pretty much where Rico is today, and we'll find ourselves up here on the panel talking about it for the first time. And Great. Mark? Thank you.
I'm Mark Backman, Director of Sales Engineering at Oblong Industries. So Oblong is probably the oddball out here, but we are a small tech company based in Los Angeles. We sell a product called Mezzanine. It is a visual collaboration technology focused on data collaboration. So really kind of the interesting thing about Oblong, as Kevin had mentioned, is that we have roots to tie back to MIT by our founder and CEO. He was pulled out of MIT to introduce some of those ideas to the world through Hollywood. So he was the Chief Science and Technology Advisor for the movie Minority Report. Went to work on and bring more of those ideas to light through other movies like Iron Man, and influencing the future. And I think that's become kind of a prevalent vision as it's really everywhere in Hollywood today. So Oblong was founded in 2006, really focused on bringing design and user interface to, at the time, big data types of problems where you have inherently lots of data that's hard to understand. So figuring out how to make use of that information in a way that the average user can come up and query a large data set. So after building out a bunch of the IP, Oblong introduced Mezzanine to the world about 4 years ago. And since then, we've been working on a lot of the trends that Paul was talking about around bringing people together. I think the one difference from the trend that you're seeing today, which video really is the way that people look at point collaboration, we're going to flip that paradigm on its end and really focus on data, and data being kind of the core item that people in the workplace want to focus on. So making it really easy to access and share all sorts of information from anyone at any location, anywhere in the world, on any network. So it's a really interesting thing, along the lines of touch, kind of leapfrogging that technology and introducing gesture and spatial types of technology, while still allowing for a touch experience at the personal level. So I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that. So excited to be here.
Great. Lou?
Good morning, everybody. Lou Shirazi. I'm the Vice President of Engineering for Unified Communications at ABI-SPL. I guess I'm the oddball because we don't create technology. We're responsible to take customers through their collaboration journey and help them make sense of the technology to their overall business goals. We go to market historically, audio-visual system integration that has grown into a stronger unified communications practice, which has now also really grown into a very service-oriented approach to market. We take a look at the collaboration architecture, and it's usually different technologies, including interactive whiteboards, but other technologies like the names Cisco, Polycom, others. There are a lot of vertical applications out there. We take responsibility for the customer success to them. Have a lot of experience in system integration going back to 40 years for the company, put together by two small organizations that made up ABI-SPL, and we're happy to be here on this panel today to talk to you about the time.
I'm Glenn Jystad. I'm the Director of Product Marketing at InfoComm, and we're also happy to be here today. About 5 years ago, everyone knows InfoComm, or if you know InfoComm, you think of us as the projector company. We've been making projectors for about 30 years now, and that's kind of moved people into the large space and made things possible, like the simplicity of this kind of presentation in a room we take for granted. 5 years ago, we saw what was happening with the projector business and saw the opportunity for interactive panels, and brainstormed a product called MondoPad, because we'd all experienced the conference room where we walked in and saw a number of different kinds of products that weren't quite working together. And so while our PCs and our phones had evolved into very powerful experiences, the conference room hadn't. And MondoPad was born kind of out of that frustration. And what we've learned for interactive panels since that introduction has created the product line that we carry today, realizing that each of the different markets requires a different specialized product. So for education, we have a JTouch product with integrated whiteboard and browser and casting capabilities, but the MondoPad is more targeted towards the business environment and higher education, where a richer application is required. What we've learned is that there's no one solution out there, and there isn't a single solution for a single customer, and that customers themselves are learning how to absorb technology. And the reality is that panels are expensive. they're large, and they're usually installation projects. And so customers are looking for solutions that can stand the test of time, that's going to change with them as their needs changes as well. And so that's been a core part of what we've done at InFocus for the range of products that we offer in this category.
Great. Welcome, everybody. So actually, it's a good segue for my question. I'm going to pick on Lou real quick for the first question, since he's kind of on the service side. And it's really around the challenges. You know, what have been the challenges, barriers, issues that you've heard from customers that it's just taken a long time to get on board from interactive whiteboards, smart boards, the touch type of solutions?
Typically, it's a cultural thing. When users either want to approach this technology or not, they're either intimidated by it or not. The biggest challenge we see is a consistent user experience across organizations, which I think is where you see Microsoft really owning that discussion with customers, and the one-touch enablement to jump into a meeting, Skype enabled, Skype business enabled, is really a desired use case that does seem to address most of the use cases, at least on the surface. It's a cultural thing. You've learned that customers say, no, that won't work for my environment, my user being intimidated by it.
Mark, I'm going to give you a softball, since that's obviously been one of your fortes. So, I mean, what have you experienced from an Oblong perspective that makes that product easier to integrate?
Yeah, I think one of the big things is really from the ground up, understanding the user and what they're trying to do. And I think there have been some points made about it has to be right for the use case. There is no one-size-fits-all tool. So I think clearly there's places where touch has great utilization. I think that's part of the reason why you see higher ed see such a large uptake. In a way, the interactive whiteboard is a proxy or replacement for just chalk and blackboard type of an application. So I think from looking at the experience, building a product around the user, and I know this is kind of a core tenet for a lot of the products out there, but making sure that it's usable, approachable. I think the service side obviously is something that can't be ignored, because any new technology, regardless of the modality or technology itself, does require change management, and work from in the enterprise, working directly with clients is an example.
So, Paul or Glenn, do you, from the manufacturer side, do you guys have anything else? Go ahead, Paul.
What we've kind of seen and learned is how people kind of get involved with touch panel displays to begin with. Usually it was a president or CEO of a company going to his kids' school to see what's going on in the classroom. He sees a whiteboard up on the front of the room and thinks to himself, wow, I should have that in my conference room. And he immediately goes back to the office and order a bunch of whiteboards thrown into all of the rooms. Found out 6 months later that they're collecting dust and nobody was using them. And this kind of stems back to what everyone else has been saying about really understanding the customer's needs, what they're trying to achieve, what they need to do. A lot of times what works in the classroom as a software-driven kind of heavy product to learn works great when you have one owner or a teacher, but when you're walking into a business environment where you have different people walking in every hour to use that same tool, it needs to be simple. Turn on to it. You need to be able to just pick up a pen and start writing on a piece of paper before people gravitate to it. So for us, at least, it was kind of having that experience already with our business customers, being able to see what mistakes they've already had to encounter before we started to develop a product that was pretty much addressing more specifically their business needs. And from that, we kind of grew products having that right kind of support.
Yeah, very similarly. The curious thing we have found is those that at the point of sale you tend to engage are probably more technically savvy than the breadth of users they have in their organization. And so they get excited about certain capabilities and combinations of things and clever things that you can do. And then when it gets deployed, they find that their employees are intimidated, or it's not quite the way that they think. And so they come back to us, and this is why we've incorporated well over 1,000 end user comments back into the product, is that every organization needs to tailor that product to that particular user group. So You may have one public space that needs to be very simple, but you have another space like an engineering lab where these guys want full control and they want all of the clever functions. And so you can turn all of the capabilities on in one environment and then kind of tune them down for the generic shared meeting spaces.
We must be on the same wavelength right now because I'm going to go off script. And one of the questions I actually was going to ask was use cases. I mean, how do you guys kind of define the use cases? I mean, now it's just so wide-ranging, right? Because you've got software, you've got hardware, you've got multi-touch, interactive. You guys store stuff in the cloud, store stuff locally, or protect it. I mean, from a manufacturer side, how are you guys kind of getting that data for use cases?
It's good that we're both a hardware and a software company because the hardware platform obviously provides the core capabilities. The software gives you the flexibility to respond to those particular things. And it's almost an expression I fear, which is the, gee, wouldn't it be cool if? And you're like, you're right. And then you think of, but this customer, that would scare them. This customer would be great for them. And so taking individual use cases is what you always do in a product. The challenge for this is because one product in a public space has to be approachable by a wide range of customers. And so you have to blend it with all of those other clever features that you've incorporated.
Right. Lou, what about you from, when a customer comes to you and says, I want this. I mean, how do you guys kind of help define that solution for that customer?
Fortunately, we work with the likes of the partners here on the panel. And it usually is a discovery around their program, their overall collaboration program, and really business goals. We say the good thing is there's a lot of options, and the bad thing is there's a lot of options to navigate. And we have more heavily focused, admittedly so, in the space of, and I'm looking at David here, because he works on this part of our organization, restaurant interfaces and different customization that someone might think works for everybody really doesn't necessarily. And focusing more on the nuances there has been a key factor, but again, it's cultural, it's business goals, it's how do you want to go along this journey, what does this journey with collaboration technology mean to your organization? Leaving boxes at the door or leaving the customer for their own devices is very important.
Well, and ultimately, from a service provider perspective, you guys have to change the way that you guys operate, right? Because it used to be that it was, you were just, no offense, but you're just pushing boxes, right?
Absolutely.
Pushing boxes out the door. Now it's more integration and really listening to the customer and understanding what their needs are, right?
There's been a seismic shift, not only within the size of the organization, but others in the market, that it's a more service-oriented approach that's needed as well. And we've made that adjustment in the case of the
Mark, what about you? Anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, so I think, really, I think about this a lot since this is kind of one of the core things in terms of adoption and growth of the client base. The way I view it, and I think, this is probably universal, but what the user cares about and interacts with is the software. So what makes good software? So first, it's robust, it's going to work and do whatever you think it should do all the time. So that's part of, there's feedback, you push a button, you get the feedback, something happens. So I think that's kind of, the baseline. The second would be good design. So that really would be some things that tie into, down just to the consumer product that people use day in and day out. Because I think the challenges of overcoming, what a new product is like, because if you think about it, it's one of maybe 1,000 tools that people are going to use within the workday. They've got, at the end of the day, numbers to meet, reports to produce, etc. So it has to be something that just works. So tying into things that are already using and are interested in on a day-to-day basis, I think is really good, and that comes down to just good design. And then last but not least is obviously each use case is slightly different. So building on those building blocks and trying to really understand and incorporate features that have, they're broadly soluble. Everyone can use them, and trying to make it as approachable as possible really does help you get most of the way there. And I would say and argue that going down the rat hole and building something that's a one-off might create more turmoil or tension across a broader customer base. So you kind of have to find that push and pull to really build something that does work for everyone.
Paul, you want to finish off?
I'm constantly amazed at Rico. They're a big company and they're willing to experiment on themselves. With that, they've been initiating what they're referring to as a new world of work. So they're rolling out a complete change in all of their offices, and they have thousands of offices all across the country. And they're changing the actual work environment. And what they're starting to realize is that maybe the things that worked for the business environment before were not really supporting their needs today, and definitely not as they move forward. So what they're thinking more about is, what do we need to put into our own infrastructure in order to allow us to operate more efficiently, so that we can allow our people to collaborate more, to get more out of each meeting that happens, and what tools, what features need to be in those tools. So with this rollout, every one of our offices are getting our interactive whiteboards. All of them are being outfitted with our networking projectors. And the feedback is coming to us through, this isn't working quite right. This isn't what we need. What we would love to have is here, which allows us then to go back and implement those, because whatever problem we incur, we know our customers are going to incur also. So we kind of have our own test bed going right now, and allows us to put together a product that thinks can satisfy the needs of at least most of our business customers, along with some of the other vertical channels that we're trying to address.
Great.
I was going to say, if I may just add to that, so I think, an interesting point is, and I do think internal use and, making use of your own product is great, but no one loves your product more than yourself. So I think that's okay. Getting the voice of the customer really is priceless. So I do think, listening to the actual users who aren't going to invest tons of time into this is crucial. So you have to actually go beyond just go outside of your own walls. It's great for initial feedback to kind of have gut check, but really getting out there and polling the broader audiences, I think it is pretty crucial.
But Paul, to your point, it's iterate, right? You have to iterate, and you iterate on yourself.
Yeah, an agile approach, a lean approach, iterative, build, measure, learn type of approach is really crucial for me.
Just trying to skim. Stay over here.
Thank you, sorry about that. My name is Dave, I'm from university. Software is important, the knowledge is king. Is anybody building analytics into the software interfaces, maybe capturing user behavior so that change is more organic and from data as opposed to pinching out and mixing? Thank you.
We've got a couple of products that we've started to integrate analytics into, and to look at that, to be honest, you have to learn how to be good at capturing good data for your analytics to be relevant. The best, as to Lou's point, or Mark's point, the best feedback is customers. And so when you've got thousands of customers that are screaming at you or making suggestions, that's a tier 1 analytic. And those are the things that end up driving the product and really push it to make sure that your existing customers get their particular needs met in an update, as well as sort of improving the value proposition for new customers.
When I design software, there's a help button. So you read the help button and capture everything that person's done, and that's part of the help. And that would be a simple software update for anybody that builds software that has these types of databases installed.
Yeah, we're incorporating a number of those capabilities across all our different applications.
Awesome.
In the case of ABI-SPL, we actually have a tool that when you engage our managed services, we layer that tool onto the environment. It does give you some usage information. Down to the specifics of actual clicks on product, we would look to leverage information from the particular technology. But room utilization, space utilization, it means a lot financially also organizations for space use and future design of rooms that, or not just rooms, walls are really coming down, workplace is changing. And collaboration is being enabled in more spaces, unfortunately. And that's really what this is all about. Interactive whiteboards is a key factor, I think, in any collaboration program that's going to put an opportunity to engage the user in a collaborative session where work gets done, right? Typically, meeting rooms we equate to agreeing to meet again, agreeing to agree to meet again. And these whiteboard solutions do allow an organization to engage and collect that brain power get ROI.
Do you guys think that from a barrier perspective, one of you guys mentioned that one platform wasn't enough and the cost was a little difficult. Do you see Is cost a barrier anymore? I mean, I think there's a perceived challenge around that. Mark, it's hard for you, right, because your product is definitely a premium product, but do you guys see that in this space where, to me, as a customer, I guess, it's difficult because both from, the amount of technology that we have to deploy and the wide-ranging business cases, I've been slow to adopt, I'll be quite honest. So it's been a little bit difficult. So are you also seeing that within the industry, or is it just kind of a misnomer? Or?
Size of the organization and their existing familiarity with different technologies, there's a complete range, right? So large organizations tend to be more conservative, but when they pull the trigger, they pull it big, right? They make a decision that cuts across their entire organization, and so they need every part sort of solved at one point. While again, thinking about, is this investment going to be good 5 years? Am I going to regret this 5 years from now and just have to go replace it and spend all this money again? That's a big part of what they're afraid of. The other side is customers that are already familiar with technology to some extent have a much higher appetite. If they've seen their, we tend to look at the purchasers are sort of IT and procurement folks, right? So while they're not the direct users, they're thinking about them. And if they see their users actually enjoying the benefits of the product, then they're much more adapt to deploy more aggressively. Those that aren't are appropriately fearful.
From a price point perspective, I think when you look at, and I'll use Microsoft as an example, Surface is at the top here. When you look at the call capability, the whiteboard, and screen sharing, you look at an AV integrated room, and the price points you're looking at for that size of screen and multi-touch or touch-enabled, the price point seems to be set pretty well, and the feedback from customers has been to be set for the price point. And generally, a lot of available products are flowing.
Mark, what about you? Does that, from a company perspective, compel you guys to look at a simpler platform or,
No, that's a good question. And actually, where Oblong started was definitely the top of the pyramid, the top of the food chain. And part of that is to develop new technology. I mean, it truly is different and innovative. Thought-provoking. Yeah, exactly, thought-provoking. And I mean, it's to basically introduce new ideas to the market. As we've, over our company's history, we've shrunken down the hardware form factor, reduced cost. And now actually at this, I know we're not supposed to talk about things from the company, but we've seen the trend is mobility, the distributed workforce. So even Oblong, we're offering solutions to scale down to a person on the desktop, which would be a per license offering. So, or even in the huddle space. So getting out of that premium room, although I will say in the premium room, really it's the perceived value or the value associated with the use case. A lot of our customers will buy big rooms because they're pitching multi-million-dollar deals. And what is, X number of dollars when you're going to close a $10 million deal? The ROI is easy. What's one more deal worth to your company? That's it.
And Paul, from your perspective, you mentioned that Rico was kind of eating your own dog food, obviously. I mean, do you guys see, to Mark's point, where we're seeing a lot of the changes, the huddle room space, right? Is that the play? Is it the premium rooms like Mark mentioned? Is it somewhere in between? Is it the regular conference room?
I think everyone's pretty much touched on and addressed it already, that it really comes down to the customer that you're talking to, their specific need and application for the tools, and what their budget is. So we're dealing with anything from global accounts down to SMEs, medium-sized businesses, right on through to the vertical market, whether it be a house of worship or a hotel, entertainment facility, or education classroom. Every one of them have a different set of needs. Every one of them absolutely has a different budget. So I think what's critically important, and we've always tried to instill, is let's not try to oversell something to people only because it's what our big product can do right now. Let's talk to them first about what are you looking to achieve. Let's help you get there. Let's find the right solution for you within the budget and the framework that you can currently afford, and then you wind up with a much happier customer. They got what they needed, they were able to afford to get it, and we didn't try to oversell them on something else. Might have been wonderful, but maybe not for their particular application.
Great. Any questions currently?
Just state your name and where you're from. Dominic Stretchy, Boston University. How disruptive do you see the all-inclusive technologies like Microsoft Surface Hub, which does everything in a box pretty much, for installation and giving capability as opposed to integrated systems.
Yeah, I think, my personal opinion on this is that I think it's a much needed disruption, that the integrated room can pose challenges because it is integrated. It's not one complete design solution that comes packaged end-to-end, meant to be interacted with in a certain way. I do think the integrator community does a fantastic job of making that, that work, but as the product and manufacturers drive more towards thinking about and understanding the use cases and building software that really is taking over a lot of the functions that the hardware is traditionally delivered, that it will offer a more end-to-end type of solution. There still is a place for integration when it comes to those, because I think that every use case is different. The user community is so varied. The point was brought up earlier about how do you address use cases across everyone. So inevitably there's going to be integration, but that piece of the pie that the product is going to deliver on, I think, is going to continue to grow and become more cohesive.
I think one of the biggest appeals of the Surface Hub is it is quite approachable. If you just walk up to it, someone's never seen it before, they want to touch it. It looks like it's just a larger surface that you've already touched. It's a welcoming example or experience, and it's simple. Not to minimize the folks on the panel, but it does address a wide range of use cases. When you start to bring up, well, should my organization invest in this? And then you start to say, well, let's look what else is out in the market. And then you start to pay attention, maybe culturally. You talk about specifics, room layout, group size, event goals, of what are you trying to achieve, and what are the social dynamics that are going to be in that room. So this, I call it layering. It's eyeballs and ears. And your folks better than anyone else. We try to come in, attach to that very quickly, and get a good understanding of it, and make the recommendation. Oblong, terrific product. It works in a lot of cultures, and they're seeing success for a reason. Same thing with the rest of the folks on the panel. I think the great thing about Microsoft is they've elevated the need for it in the marketplace. That at the timing and pricing, their system is mainly backed by their ecosystem. If you're not invested in it, well, then you have a lot of other options to look at.
To put my panel hat on, that's exactly, that's how I was going to kind of convey it.
It's a window into their environment.
Exactly, right.
Otherwise, it's really expensive.
Large companies, that are heavily invested in Microsoft products, that Skype for Business integration is super compelling to us, right? Because we have hundreds of thousands of licenses with Microsoft, so whatever we can do to kind of maximize the savings is very important. So.
Actually, just a point related to that, something that I think about a lot is, it's almost a foregone conclusion that Surface Hub is going to be the save-all or catch-all for this. But if you look at other companies in the past, I think Smart in particular has taken a very good run at interactive or digital types of smart boards, and it's a great experience for the user, but for whatever reason, the enterprise had a very hard time adopting it. So I think it'll be really interesting once the Surface Hub launches to see where is it a fit, how is it used, how do people adapt their workflows around it. And I think there's a lot of learning.
It's got to be better than a link room system, right?
Absolutely. That's right.
And that obviously never caught traction. So there's, from a corporate perspective, I'm obviously leery.
And Microsoft will sell a ton of Surface Hubs. Sure. And I think it'll be a great learning experience for all vendors in the space to really see what works, what doesn't work, and then everyone's going to be iterating after learning the lessons.
So from transitioning kind of on that is, from your aspects, what's the top 2-3 items that customers are asking for? Whether that's API integration, to services like Box or OneDrive or OneNote or things like that, or bigger screens or smaller screens, or those aspects. So Paul, from your side, what's the 2 or 3 hot items right now?
It's funny because the way you're asking that question, it doesn't really happen that way. People seldom ask for a product. They pretty much always ask for a solution. And that's pretty much where we're trying to gear our approach to working with the customer. It may never be just one product that's going to fit the need that they have across the board. So what we're trying to do is first find out what is it that you're trying to achieve. Where's the problem? Well, after you kind of get into their way of work, understand what their business objectives are and how they're trying to go about achieving that, then we can come back with a better solution that will fit that. Now, it may be in one product, It may turn out to be a 21-inch board with a built-in camera as opposed to an 84-inch board with an outboard system, but we're not going to know that until we really find out what they're looking for. So I guess the point here is it's going to vary a lot depending on the customer and what you're looking for, but it's always going to evolve down to what is it that you're looking to achieve before you can really fit the right product. But I didn't really agree that the Microsoft approach was going to be a one fit for all, but I think what it did achieve was helping to raise the level of awareness of some of the technologies that existed today in the marketplace. So it opens up the eyes of a lot of end users to some of the options that they may not have understood before. It may not be the Microsoft Surface that works best for them, but in the end, maybe a touch panel display will. So they're going to find, after they work with the right integrators and the right people to define what their needs are, they're going to find the right product that's going to satisfy their need.
Anybody else?
I think what we've learned in our space is there's a solution out there for the business need, right? It's not like you have to create something or really ask a provider to enable a feature. It's probably out there. It's, again, what's going to blend well. What has been successful in the organization? What's paralleled in another rollout that was successful culturally? How do we match that then to the potential features that you can benefit from? If possible, cohort analysis, right? That's what pilot really is. You're observing behaviors and what's used. Success criteria in pilots is critical, and really exercising what you think the benefits can be to the organization.
Yeah, customers are looking for sort of natural replacements to the things that they already do, like formal meetings. I want to present my PowerPoint slides. That's kind of where they start. But as soon as they realize that it's now a digital experience, they start to go, well, what else can I do with that? Can I annotate on that? Can I share with that? Can that be part of the video conferencing environment? And then they get used to the touch experience as sort of part of that. And now they want spontaneous meetings. And so that's where that combination of a whiteboard capability as well as presentation capabilities, and then have all of that tied into, if they're a multi-site organization, some kind of video conferencing solution. You see their needs sort of very, very quickly expand the faster they get used to the product. The latest thing that we've added in response has been casting. That's sort of the catch-all for wireless display, whether that's AirPlay or Miracast. And neither of those are really, satisfy the needs of all the different situations. And so we added our own with sort of multi-directional and the touch capability with feedback. And then on top of that, you got to support all the platforms. There are a number of organizations that are, Redmond software based, but there's an awful lot that are still using Mac and Windows and Android and iOS, and everybody wants their device to be a part of this cool experience, and that's what we've added in the latest versions.
Yeah, so I think those are fantastic answers. To kind of take it a different way, I think this is a trend that AV and IT are definitely converging as more of these solutions have become more software-oriented and become all-encompassing, and data starts to get integrated, these appliances live on the network. I think security and enterprise integration are really two of the trends that we've seen. The enterprise customer base and with end users and you in the room, you can definitely attest to your data is your IP, it is the value of your company, right? So having something new on the network that might create a vulnerability, I think, is something that is a challenge for new technologies, but it's a focus that needs to be there. So no different than a switch, firewall, router, etc. These new solutions really need to have enterprise standard and enterprise level security and integration features to make it blend in well with the IT set of infrastructure that's already in place.
So, challenge them. Is there any, you like what you're hearing? Is it right, from a customer perspective? Anybody have any questions specific to that?
That should be a can of worms, right? Security is a
Yeah.
So I'll again speak for the Surface Hub. It's managed as a mobile device. So very much this thing is an enterprise device. It's on the wall. It's managed like a mobile device. And you can have it fit that device profile and security. Depending on how you engage it. It's essentially an appliance that allows for you to use it in one use and then it's gone. Just like a whiteboard or a wrist. A lot of these technologies follow that same principle. It's an appliance, it's meant for, that just happens to be a computer or live on a network. Of course, there are very many nuances again, the good news is most of it has passed all the muster. And so the market of a lot of implementations that have been validated and have ultimately pleased the customer. You got to get through the security barrier, but there's a lot of pleased customers out there.
This is an important area, especially for business, because security is a priority for an awful lot of them. And a lot of times we find that all you really need is for the operation to exist within their own network, not to be on the internet, not to give access to someone that's going to be able to sneak in. But taking into consideration the way the workforce is changing today, they are also very much aware that the new young workforce that is coming in is extremely mobile. And that if you hold a meeting, a lot of your people are going to be remote. They're going to need access to come into that meeting. They're not going to be sitting at home with a CPU on a desk. What they're going to be doing is walking around with a mobile device. They still want to have that same level of connectivity, involvement, and have the ability to collaborate. But you have to always balance the two between your mobile connectivity, your interaction with everything, on top of maintaining security, which is always a priority.
I want to understate that point. Millennials, big topic everyone talks about in the workforce. There's an attractiveness to the physical appearance of collaborative spaces within an organization. Walking through, considering a job here, they have whiteboards on the wall, they have interactive on the wall. That is an absolute decision-making factor from top down in many of our customers.
Universities market for students just like the corporate space, and they bought our kind of products exactly for that purpose, to sort of showcase that they're technically savvy. They not only want the benefit, but there is a external appeal to being on the forefront of these technical products, these capable products.
It's a very competitive world in that sense. Driven mainly by millennials and the software approach, but definitely a huge factor.
It's a great point, and we were talking kind of joking before this, being from Disney, we don't typically give free plugs, but I am going to give a plug to somebody who I saw yesterday on the show floor, which is actually Quirk. We were talking about kind of the white, or the paper clipboards, right? Glenn, your point is, walking through those spaces, like, God, I wish I could get rid of those things. And these guys actually have this EE, whiteboard type of solution, which is actually very compelling to swap that stuff out, because again, the cost of putting a smartboard in might be too much, but maybe that would be a good fit. So there's your free plug for the day.
Actually, an interesting point. I'll say, don't underestimate, regardless of age. I guess I'm the token millennial on the panel. The immediacy of an analog whiteboard. I think that won't ever go away. When you pick that pen up and write, it's going to work. You know how to write on paper and pen always. So I think that the fact that, I'm really excited with blending of the digital and the analog mediums are really important. So finding ways to integrate those. Because it isn't all just millennials. We do still have a very diversified workforce. It won't be for 30 years until millennials are, 75% or more of the workforce. So it does have to work for everyone.
We've got a question.
So I have a question. I'm with Boston University, as I stated earlier, and we've seen the adoption of whiteboards in K-12 much more prolific than I've seen, at least I can only speak for my institution, within the classroom in higher ed. There are all kinds of challenges there. The only real adoption to imitation has been really the tablets, that type of, Wacom, the smart tablet. So I'd just like to take a perspective, and maybe we're a lone wolf here, where we're struggling with this, but we don't see college professors gravitating very quickly to large whiteboards, imitation boards, especially the math and the science, who like their chalkboards and like very long spaces to write on. So I'd like to get your perspective on that.
In order to add on to that, actually, it's going to be a question of mine, was the trends, specific. I don't know what the mix we have here, but trends in education, trends in the medical industry, trends in entertainment, that aspect. But definitely, what are you seeing in that aspect for the education space?
Can I jump on that for a second? You're absolutely right, and I was absolutely amazed. And this is from my personal experience. I was, not that many years ago, taking my daughter around to visit different colleges, selecting which ones you want to go to. What I was amazed at coming from the AV industry was how poor the presentation quality was at most of the colleges that we were looking at that had the nerve to ask me for $40,000 every year to put her in there. And I see this old, dim projector showing pictures on a slide screen and it was falling apart. And this is what they were using to try to sell me into sending my daughter to this school because they're going to have the greatest, education and the ability to convey that information. You're right. To some degree, I saw more automated products, more up-to-date technologies being displayed in high schools than I did in colleges. Now, I can't say that that's the way it is across the board because there are an awful lot of new higher education facilities that we've been talking to and working with that are implementing an awful lot of this technology. But I think you're right. I think we started to see it happening first in K through 12, and moving up into high school, and now eventually moving into college. And I don't really know why it took that route, but it seemed to. But they can certainly use some more better technology, at least for bringing in, like you were saying before, the sales pitch that says, we've got the latest and greatest. We know your kids are mobile. We know your kids are using all kinds of mobile devices, and they want to be able to take their notes that way, interact in the classroom that way, and be able to communicate that way. So let's keep it not just in their dorm room where this technology exists, let's put it in the classroom too.
I have a response. Can I just interrupt? I have a response to that because I think that that's a little bit of a misnomer that we find students, even though we expect them to be more engaged with technology than they actually are. And we see that constantly, and there are reports out there that come out, whether it be EDUCAUSE or other reports that show that as much as they are digital natives, they don't use them for productivity. They use them for entertainment. They use them for gaming, So I just want to, I agree with you, and I know that will eventually go, but all of the reports show that we struggle with students that are coming in to try to get them to adopt technologies for productivity, for studying.
Maybe we just have to put that technology in front of them in a way so that it could help make their life a little bit easier and more productive. And if you figured out a way of doing what they needed to do on one of their devices, they would feel more comfortable.
But I just want to, but we assume more of these students coming in and how they adopt and use technology than they actually practice. And I think we need to be careful about how we address that.
We have a number of university customers that have aggressively deployed, and granted, they tend to be sort of on the forefront of some of this stuff in a way to try to market themselves on the outside. But there is an inevitability to this. There's a groundswell of education being entirely digital, or predominantly digital, or substantially more digital. Not only just in the curriculum, but also in the student and the teacher feedback, and just how documents are submitted to the teacher, and how that is all managed, and what are the assignments that are coming up, and even the testing. Elementary schools, the smart, a lot of transition to that, but I think always with high school kids.
At that point, they don't focus on the workflow, right? So, it's
right.
technology, but
the teachers, what happened in elementary school was the teachers started to move to a digital curriculum. As the tools for curriculum improved, the teachers happily moved in that direction. And so every one of the elementary schools I've been engaged with in the last year, and all the high schools are completely digital. Not completely, but every course is digital in one respect or another, whether it's the assignments are online or papers are submitted online. They're expected to do their work online and to take advantage of the resources that are available online, like being able to do a wiki search is a presumed element of an elementary school level task, and that blows my mind. But that groundswell is moving into the university space from what we see. We've seen a number of universities deploy our stuff. But the larger venues is still sort of an opportunity and a little product, but we're now looking at the video wall spaces as sort of how do you take advantage of ultra large venues, but still blend in the capabilities of something like a Surface Hub or a MongoPad that have the familiarity of PowerPoint slides and whiteboards, but now they're part of this monster, and that's a product that we've actually started looking into as well for universities and other organizations.
So, Mark, are you seeing that as well? The prisms of the world, and you guys, and that is that space getting in You get any more ingrained in that as well?
Into the education
side.
I think education, it's interesting, just a point actually to directly address the point about, making the transition to a digital type of flow. I think if you look at it, really it's kind of an habitualization of our society of how education works and we're all used to. I think good technology is transparent, but something that is as simple as this or chalk on a chalkboard, I think really is transparent. So it's hard to overcome that. Digitalization is inevitable. That's going to happen. Everything should be searchable, queryable. Big data grows and grows in size. I think that's something, but there's a learning curve and there's a change because at the end of the day, the teachers need to teach. They need to communicate their message, and it's just one tool to do that. So I think and education will be kind of a starting point for that, but it does take a while for that new technology to penetrate into education.
Not to minimize growth within the education space, because I can't speak as an expert. We have experts in that space. I think the validation of the interactive whiteboard technology is completely validated there. I would say not taking away a green chalkboard, retrofit or enable, because it's all about application usage. The trend we see is let's reshuffle this real estate, and when I reshuffle it, how do I better engage that same physical space with a better collaborative experience? So I don't know how that may map to universities, but that is the trend. Take down the walls, reconstruct it. What used to be an executive office is now 4 public spaces. And then enable that with a whiteboard. Maybe one's a whiteboard, one's a video conferencing system. If you look at the way Steelcase actually represents some of their product, they lay out all these different collaborative spaces, and it kind of looks very asymmetric. Right? So, well, why would you do that? So, well, some space will appeal to certain people, others will appeal to others. So you want to increase your odds of collaborative spaces that will work.
I'm afraid to go over here, so.
Be afraid, very afraid. So I am at a university, and I actually teach a 300 level critical thinking class, technology and social change. So I've been doing that for about 10 years. I come to this comment, this question, from that perspective. Technology is a tool. Like any tool, it should be training. The faculty that I engage, because I have 3 different hats, I'm the drone pilot, as I'm a private pilot, I teach as a faculty member, and I'm head of the technology unit. I'd like to see the industry come together with whatever it is that faculty know at the university level. Right now, faculty walk into the room out of their PhD programs, may never having taught a class. And just a simple aspect of turning and facing an audience is not part of their training. So is there any thoughts on having an effort to coalesce around what it takes to teach with technology as a discipline at the university level? It's something I thought about for many years. I actually offered that as a one-day event for faculty that are entering my university, talking about the whole plethora of what did you do where you came from, what can you do here, what can you support here, what are the options here, what are we thinking about the future. We covered that in about 6 hours. But I haven't seen any in the industry come up with that perspective. Thank you.
I don't have an answer, but I have an example. Everything is starting to move, as people have indicated, in the education world towards digital, moving away from paper. I know that a little bit more because my wife works at a school, high school, and she's in board of ed, and what they're going through now at a state level is we all remember taking those state tests, right? It was a page of answers with the little circles, the number 2 pencil, and we had to fill it in. Well, they're not doing that anymore. The state is insisting that it all goes online, it all becomes digital. Now, what the school is taking, and its responsibility is being put back onto the school to do the training that you're talking about with not only the teachers, but with the students. What they have to do is going through 2 or 3 years of fake testing, where they'll actually put the kids into, okay, for these next 2 days, you're going to be online with the computers we gave you. You're not going to be using a number 2 pencil to fill that in, but you're going to be using this format. So they're actually gearing themselves up towards working in a digital environment by giving them, through, I guess, a state program, enough time to get the students on board, feeling comfortable, so that they don't have to worry about the test result reflecting their inability to work within that environment, but it reflects truly their knowledge of the matter. I think the schools probably have to and should start looking at the same thing with their teachers. It may be, and part of the teaching course, being going through a certain level of the new and latest technology technology devices that are being available and put into a classroom so that they don't walk into it blind, but they walk in kind of being familiar with the technology. Not only how to use it, but how to gain the maximum out of it. Technology, because it exists and you can do it, isn't a great thing in itself. But technology that can be applied to create a better solution or a more productive either meeting or learning experience can be a great asset. So we have to be careful what technology we throw at the school or the classroom or the meeting room, but if it helps to become a more productive environment where it takes, please, 15 minutes to have a meeting instead of 1 hour, and you actually talk to all the people you needed to at the same time, and everyone got the same information collectively, that would be a great thing. But we all have to learn how to use it. We on this panel have to learn how to use the crap that we bring to the show every year, just before we come to the show, so that we can tell you what it does. It's up to you to figure out how it's going to fit into your needs.
There's a concept, in aviation, I bring a lot of stuff to aviation, is because when you crash a plane, it's a bad deal. There's a concept in aviation about a master pilot or a chief pilot. And that concept I brought to my university. There are master teachers at the university, just like there are in K through 12. There's a slight difference, though, because at a university we have this box of snakes that are the faculty, and I'm one of them. And we don't want to listen to anybody. So we want know what we have to do about 30 seconds before we have to do it. And I guess my question kind of went towards what the training materials that need to be produced that are either just-in-time training materials or training modality that shows, oh, you're teaching chemistry. Here's the opportunity loss if you don't want to learn this technology.
Well, what we've done, I don't know, I'll stop.
Yeah.
What we've done is we realized that things like interactive touchdown displays are intimidating, can be complicated. With our best efforts in trying to keep them simple for the user to be able to walk up, turn it on, and start writing, there's still a degree of how do I get to do this. So we've created training videos, and we found that instead of paper, watching a video and watching actually somebody do it is a much easier way for somebody to grasp the concept. So for our whiteboards, for example, we have a whole series of on YouTube training videos that you can go to. And we'll tell you, how do I send an email to everyone in this conference from this board? Click on that one, and there's going to be actually Jen, who sits next to me, up there, showing you exactly which steps you have to go through in order to do that. Or how do I send this to the printer? Or how do I address the IP address in another board so I can collaborate with it? So we found that videos work the best for that, and they're short, they're not long, and they're not for engineers, they're for end users to use the board. So within a couple of minutes, you should be able to perform that function if you just go to YouTube.
We had a school come to us, and they wanted, training is absolutely a critical thing, and internally we just spent about 4 months analyzing all the different ways that we need to improve training. And the videos, we've had the videos, but users weren't finding them. And so we've actually instructed a website that we're getting ready to put out, kind of based on the Khan Academy model, where everything's based on curriculum, and that users have the ability to sort of track what they've actually accomplished. But one of those specific things was to give for schools that want to expose something like a model pad to students to say, you go through this little short brief course, and then once you're certified, then we'll let you play with the technology. And so they walk in already familiar with the basic functions, and that gives the school more confidence that the users are going to get more out of the product. It was a great feedback for us.
That's a great idea. If you do implementation like doing ACL based on access control, that's based on the training.
Or integrated change management, or integrated into your training solution, right? Whatever that is. All right, so I know I'm taking you guys to lunch, so we're going to wrap this up. So I wanted to give the four panelists maybe an opportunity to kind of just talk about the trends, whether it's what are you seeing in the next 18 months, 36 months, 5 years, and what's in your mind, what's on the forefront, and just add some closing comments, and then we'll take some quick questions if we have any additional questions from the audience. So Paul, go ahead.
Damn. This group here is going to know a lot more about this. But at least from our perspective, we're constantly in the learning process. So what we're doing is we're gathering feedback, as everyone else has, from both our own practical uses of the product, trying to figure out what's working, what's not working, what we need, or customer feedback, after they have an opportunity to do it. So I don't think we're looking ahead to kind of second guess what the market's going to need. We're kind of working together with the market and practical application we can use ourselves to figure out what the next steps need to be. Fortunately, factories are quick enough, because a lot of this is software-based, so that they would be able to implement the next step, the changes that are needed. Not to say that Japan, as they always have, won't come up with their own ideas that are needed or not needed, but we will at least try to provide enough input as we go forward to grow in the areas that we see the need.
Mark, what about you?
So I think, kind of related to some points that I was saying, I think, some of the core tenets of good technology are design, pulling from your day-to-day life, making use of things. So if we look at the trends and things that are coming, different modalities, different types of interaction, obviously AR and VR are inevitable. Voice as an input mechanism, I think, are really interesting. But if you take a step back and look at it, what are we all trying to do? Really, at the core, it's to communicate more efficiently, more effectively, stay connected, really thrive in a 24/7 type of work environment. So I think the trends that are coming out are really going to leverage a lot of that technology. So staying up with the trend in the enterprise while still balancing that usability perspective. For Oblong's point of view, actually, we've coined the term real reality. It's one of those things where you can actually surround yourself, or surround yourself with the information and live with it in a three-dimensional world rather than have to put, lens on and remove yourself from the human environment that you're in, because ultimately in the workplace, your job is to communicate with other human beings, not to talk to an avatar. So I think that there's an interesting trend of data being immersive and living within your world, catering to you versus you trying to deposit yourself in some digital world. So some interesting stuff.
That's great. Lou, what about you from an integrator?
Yeah, dare I say the market is being more commoditized. I'll use the word standardized, and that's in a good way. The standardization around these platforms and organizations like us, being service and open service oriented our approach, you need to consider, if we're walking away from this session, saying, do interactive whiteboards culturally make sense in my environment? There's a lot of options. There's a lot of smart people that know how to help me narrow down my requirements with the collective interest of not only where and how do I service that? How do I really get into my own internal market where it makes sense? Otherwise, it's really just an expensive device. Yet another one that's going to collect us. But we really stressed looking at your overall collaborative program and having a very clear understanding of the product, because that's really what you're doing. You're not putting technology in a room. You're putting the product to market. It's your university market, it's your enterprise market. So how are these going to get value? What's the value proposition? What are the features that you can train them on to take advantage of? And ultimately, I think we'll see a more pervasive collaboration experience overall as walls come down, as the workplace changes more, and have video technology and voice technology, collaboration technology in every pocket, in every space, room, boardroom, virtual. Those are all things customers that support every specific angle. And again, I think it's a good time to make considerations for your organization and consider what your standards that you're going to buy, and then how they're going to affect your organization for the next 12 years.
What about you?
I think we're clearly into the sort of the second generation of the deployment of these kinds of technologies, and so we've sort of all hit our early adopter customers and love to promote our clever technology. It's now been out there and adopted. The customers have really been using it, and so we're moving into mainstreaming these things and realizing that what we've been doing is taking personal technologies and trying to use them in public spaces, and realizing that some solutions are more adapted to that than others. So like the K-12 classroom where the elementary school teacher sort of owns that space is more adapted to personal technology uses, but the corporate environment where you walk into a meeting room really needs that kind of structured public space product like a MondoPad or a Surface Hub that knows how to separate meetings. And I think we're moving from our initial customers that like to take on new technology into more mainstream. And that's an exciting part for us in this industry, that these things are now going to be more easily understood and sort of are going to be more broadly adopted. But issues like training, rather than just innovative technology, are raising awareness because it's a broader user base. And so you're seeing all of these things evolve, but you're going to see just a larger appetite for adoption.
Great. Any questions from the audience?
I think Mark Hamlin percent on the touchscreen manufacturer. I think everybody sort of probably understands the benefits of interactive whiteboards, but clearly adoption hasn't been where it could be. What are the major reasons you think of why current products are not getting adopted faster? Is it cost? It's probably a big one. Is it the fact that they're not good natural inking? They don't match the real whiteboard experience. Is it a bad interface? And please don't just say all of the above. Because obviously it is, but there's some priority involved.
Go ahead.
I don't think cost has been, I mean, we all got into the market sort of as soon as cost became sort of something we knew that there was an opportunity for. We like to see it going down, but it's obviously moved to a more commoditized, more aggressive space. That's a little bit of a challenge for all of us, right? We're going to see our margins go down and with more competition. But it's being able to the point about solution is that the panel is just a vehicle. It's what you're doing with the panel that the customer has to realize meets their needs. And a lot of them just frankly have to kind of envision themselves how they're going to use it and then pick the different stories of all the different offerings that are out there. And the most adaptive, feature-rich ones are going to tend to do extremely well.
I think it measures on intuition, how intuitive it is. Because especially in a corporate environment, you bring guests in a room and you want to use the technology, how are you going to train them? So it has to be intuitive, so that those solutions and you refer back to millennials, they're a little less, stressed about touching the devices, seeing what it does. They're not intimidated by it. So I think it's the sort of trend of the folks in the market that might be intimidated by technology, but might feel enabled, but also this newer generation is just not scared by it, right? So they're going to touch that device and use it, and it better work. It better, really work with what it's advertised to do. It's got to be intuitive, and culturally intuitive. It's a relative. Got to be a relative.
I can't, say enough about the use case fit. I mean, there are certain types of workers that undoubtedly should be using inking. For example, AEC is a great vertical where if you're an architect, you should absolutely be drawing over your content. But looking at it on the flip side, if you're a lawyer or in finance, it doesn't make sense to draw on your spreadsheet. So I think it really needs to be the use case. So I do think it's dropped in as a one-size-fits-all solution, and oftentimes technology is bought for technology's sake, rather than trying to pair with a business use case. Sometimes it can get a bad rap. So maybe more targeted marketing and distribution, and then training. You can't say enough about training and getting people familiarized with the technology. Since any new technology comes with a learning curve and change management, so I think kind of from those points of view, I think that those are the challenges that I've seen.
Paul, quickly, anything?
Pretty much it's been said, and I've said it throughout the day. Never just sell somebody a piece of new technology. Sell them a solution that's going to help fit their needs and help allow them to achieve the result that they're looking to achieve. If whiteboard is a great product for that customer because if you heard what they're looking to do, that's going to help them get there, then absolutely you should show them how to use it, show them the right product, give them the right size. But if in the end all that we're ever looking to do is show a really big PowerPoint slide on screen, then we should be pointing them in the right direction to make sure that we get them the right tool. So technology is great, it's growing, it's going to offer an awful lot of collaboration, but if that customer doesn't need that, let's find out what he does need and give him the right product. That's where it needs to be.
Great. All right, so we're going to wrap up. So I'm going to put you guys on the spot, so hopefully you know the numbers. So booth numbers and location. Do you guys know, Paul?
Yeah, Rico, we're right here in the North Hall, right below this room. We're in N647. If you do come by, ask for Max. Max is a 9-foot tall robot. And if you've never seen one, you've got to come to the booth and see him.
Mark, how about you?
So we're in the North Hall as well. Oblong Industries, we're showing mezzanine in N2337.
ABI is built right behind the Cisco booth. N1218.
And InfoComm is at N1417, where Cisco has the privilege of being next to us.
All right, great. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the panelists, and I appreciate everybody's time. Have a great night.